So when was your aha moment? When did you realize, okay, this is it, it's me, and I got to change?
It was 12 years ago, that relationship where I went to go see a therapist again, because I had seen therapists throughout my life. When you live in this kind of environment, you have to get help. And seeing a therapist, I don't want people to feel ashamed of seeing a therapist. Sometimes you just need people to help you process. But it was that therapist, when I described my relationship, she said to me, even that relationship, as much as I wanted it, even that relationship was an abusive relationship because he was controlling me in a way that was not healthy. I want you to jump. Okay, how high? I want you to wear this. Okay, ooh, but I don't want to wear that. I want you to wear lingerie. I'm not comfortable with lingerie. But, he was constantly making me feel like I was the problem. I wasn't doing enough. As he said, I don't trust you with my happiness. That's a huge burden to put on someone. And so what I learned on my journey of healing is that people are responsible for their own happiness. I'm responsible for my own happiness, not a partner, not a spouse, not a friend. You are responsible for your own happiness. And it took me decades to learn that.
Wow.
I commend anyone who can put their story onto paper, because that takes a lot of vulnerability, and I look at myself and I think about, like, hey, it's a lot of things that I would want to say, but a piece of me, and I'm just being very honest, is afraid to hurt people's feelings if I say what I want to say on paper.
You are right. You are right.
So I commend you for that. Did you feel any way like that when you knew that you were writing this book about how your family would feel? Like me, I was like, I don't want to hurt this person or whatever, but it is my story, it's my journey. But
Yes.
then that's just.
So I finished this book in 2011. And then I dropped the mic. I walked away, I washed my hands of it. It was therapeutic, right? But I always knew I had a story to tell. And then this pandemic happened. And what happened during the pandemic? We had time for pause, right? We were all forced to retreat into the privacy of our own homes and
That's
spaces,
right.
which
I
led
got
to
time.
some reflection time, introspection. And I said, you know what? I'm going to dust that book off because mental health is on steroids right now. People don't talk about mental health enough. This pandemic elevated mental health. It is a pandemic in and of itself, and we're not giving enough
Right.
time and resources to it. So I talked to some people. I said, you have a graphics person, I need an editor, I needed this and that. And so I created a village to help me polish this book up. I wrote it, but if you're going to publish a book, you want to make sure you put out a good product. In the end, I know this book is resonating with people, but I walked away because at that time my parents were still alive. I was calling out a child molester in my family who at that time was still alive. I was telling family secrets. I was revealing things about me that people might have judged me or that were embarrassing. But then I realized it became bigger than me. It wasn't about someone else's embarrassment or even my own embarrassment. I had a story to tell. And that is a story about mental health. It is a story about giving voice to alcoholism. It is a story about giving voice to people like me who grow up in this environment, who become dreadfully codependent on just monitoring everything about that alcoholic. What time is he coming home? I would do this. Okay, what time is dad coming home? Okay, his shift ends at 11:30 p.m. If he's not home by midnight, oh man, what is that going to mean? And I talk about that in the book. Sleeping with one eye open and one ear, to the door. Because my dad would come home in the middle of the night after working his swing shift. He'll go to a bar, He'll drink himself stupid. He'll come home and literally drag my mother out of the bed, and which would end with us running for our lives in the middle of the night with a gun coming behind us. So imagine living like that for decades. For
That's
decades.
traumatic.
It sounds like, okay, so you're saying alcoholism, and that is the case, but it also sounds like he had a lot of mental health issues of his own, a lot of emotional damage.
I think he did. And here's what I think, and I'm only guessing because I never really got close to my dad. Here's what I think. My dad came to the United States at the age of 21. My dad came from Ecuador. He came here not speaking one word of English, trying to find his way, trying to live the American dream. He meets my mother. They marry. He leaves behind in Ecuador his family, as they described to him, why did you leave us? We're living in poverty. They put a lot of pressure on him. So you know what happens with immigrant families? They come to the United States for the American dream. They send money back home every month, right? They support a whole network of family members. Meanwhile, my mother is here in the U.S. with all of her parents, her siblings coming from Panama. So she's got a close-knit family. Like, we are together all the time for birthdays and holidays and family food and this and that and dancing all together. And I think he had resentment. I think he blamed my mother for that. His mom passed away and he couldn't go to her funeral to get back to Ecuador. So all these things compounded on each other, and I think he blamed his family, his U.S. family, for the relationship he didn't have with his family back in Ecuador. And they put a lot of pressure on him. Meanwhile, my dad came here in 1950. He went back to Ecuador in 1999 for the first time after he left. And those people were living their best lives. They had homes and businesses. One's a profesor, one's a doctor, you know. You understand what I'm saying? We have these cousins in Ecuador who are musicians and popular. And my dad would always say, yeah, that's because of me. It's because I sent all that money there. My dad always had a very thick accent. But I think those were his demons. If I'm guessing, I think those were his demons. And I do think there was undiagnosed mental illness. I think my dad had a quick fuse at times that was just unreasonable. So maybe there could have been, I mean, I don't want to diagnose him, but there could have been maybe some bipolar issues there, some sort of mental health issues that were undiagnosed, because he was a ticking time bomb. You know, he would be quickly fused. You say the wrong thing and boom, he was off.
Because sometimes there's an issue there and alcohol is just the excuse. Oh, I was drunk. Oh, I was this. Oh, I was that. And no, there was something, sometimes there was something already there. Could it also have been a cultural thing? Where you grew up in LA, was it a welcoming community because your mom is from Panama, your dad is from Ecuador? You know, did you see people, you know, were you in a brown and black community? Did you see people that looked like you, embraced you in the community? Sometimes, you know, being able to find a job, different things like that, sometimes, you know, will make someone give up on hopes and dreams, you know, to live that American dream, that American lifestyle, you know?
Yeah, so on my mother's side of the family, there were several siblings, I want to say up to 8 or 9. All of them did well moving to LA, some in New York, you know, entrepreneurs and just long careers, homeowners, all of that, beautiful. My dad always felt like he was misunderstood and not welcomed. As he would say, I am a foreigner in this country. I speak with an accent, my skin is brown, I speak Spanish. So he didn't create a network. He
Yeah.
didn't create
Yeah.
a network of friends. My dad had a beer in one hand and a tennis racket in the other, and he fell in love with both of those things and never connected with my mother's side of the family. So there was always tension and feud, and because they saw how he treated my mother. In fact, I just talked about this in the book. One of my tias, my aunts, had to hit my father over the head with a bottle because he was physical with my mother. And so that relationship was always strained. And so I think my dad related more to the beer bottle than, and he was very awkward. Like he would say the wrong things. Like he would say something like, hey, talking about one of my aunts, hey, it looks like you picked up some weight. Like, Dad, you're not supposed to say stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
He was very awkward and never really had great social skills. And I think he always felt self-conscious about his accent. Sometimes this United States of America can be very unforgiving when
And
it comes
harsh.
to people with accents, right? You hear people get caught up on the YouTube saying, go back to your country, what are you doing? That, and he felt that. He felt that.
Yeah, and it sours you. I used to work with a girl who came from Colombia, and she was a teacher. She even became a professor. But when she came over here, she had to become a nanny. And
Oh,
she was
wow.
angry. She was like, over here, we're nanny, we're housekeepers. She said, but in our countries, we're actually, we have professions. And she just hated it, hated it.
Yeah.
She never adjusted because she saw very early that you were placed in a category because of the color of your skin, because of your accent. She didn't get a lot of jobs when she tried to look for jobs. And I had to say to her, do you think it's because even if it's her skin color, or even if it's not her skin color, let's put the skin color aside because she was very dark for a Colombian young lady. She said even at home, her nickname was Negrita.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So she was going to, so she was aware of her color, but her accent was so thick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, even if you have the color and the accent.
And the accent.
That's a
Exactly.
double whammy against you.
It's
I hate to say that, but I have to
it
be,
is.
yeah.
It's true. It's true. And that's how this country treats people with accents. I mean, you've seen, like I say, you've seen people get caught up on the phone and then it gets posted to social
Yeah.
media. They do. They say that. You have
And,
to
Yeah.
go back to your
and
country. This is
yeah,
not, you don't belong here. It's terrible.
and
And my father felt very displaced.
and if you don't speak phonetically correct accents on that level, like even having a country accent, it's people are cruel. They
They
can be
really are.
very cruel.
It's true. Like my dad, instead of jog, he'd say yog. Like there were just certain words that he couldn't say. And so he was very comfortable in Spanish. It was his first language, and he just
Right.
felt most comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.